Mr. Goss, if the current Senate health care bill were to pass in the House of Representatives this year, what specifically can Congress do after the 2010 elections to repeal or amend this bill?
Well, we can start writing some bills, but thank goodness Scott Brown won. I don't think this is going to become a reality. Healthcare, President Obama has called us obstructionists. He has thrown temper tantrums and stamped his little foot and thrown fits and accused us of just about everything you can imagine. He's made fun of us. He's taken on Fox News. For someone who's President of the United States, he spends a lot of time watching the news. My solutions to fix healthcare are very simple, and the great thing about them is they don't cost a penny. Number one, tort reform, absolutely. They did this in Texas and in a few other states, and it dropped premiums like you would not believe. Number two, we have got to get these people in our country that are here illegally off of our healthcare system. We should not be providing this to people who have broken our laws. Hospitals and clinics are closing all over the country because of this very problem. Number three, we have, as I sit here right now, over 1,900 federal mandates on insurance. This is why prices go up. I'm never going to have children myself. I shouldn't have to pay for that. I don't want to pay for acupuncture. I don't want to pay for port wine stain remover or any of these other ridiculous federal mandates that the government requires insurance companies provide. We have to eliminate these regulations, allow us to design our own coverages. We have to expand healthcare savings accounts. We need to give us the same breaks that companies give when we buy insurance. We need more retail health clinics. These are not federally regulated, and they're a great example of the success stories that you can have when the government gets out of it. The IRS doesn't make doing your taxes any simpler. There's no way that the government's going to make your health care any better. Vouchers for the poor. You know, we can fix the problems with health care. Our health care is not the issue. Insurance is the problem. Our health care is the best in the world, bar none. That's why the premier of Newfoundland's coming here to have his heart surgery. It's not our health care that's the problem. It's government bureaucracy and getting in the way. We also have to be able to purchase insurance across state lines if we find it cheaper.
Next is for Mr. Kelly.
Mr. Kelly, there's another one that involves my family. Are you in favor of individual health care savings and group plans across state lines?
Absolutely. The United States federal government violates the Interstate Commerce Clause of the Constitution. They've used that to ruin and intervene themselves in every single level of our economy, and the one thing they should use it for, they do not. You should be able to purchase insurance across state lines. You should be able to have tax-free health care savings accounts. This gives people the freedom to buy these low-premium, high-deductible plans, meaning if you get a bloody nose, you don't have to use your health insurance. You just go get your nose patched up. If something catastrophic happens, you dip into your healthcare savings account, pay the high deductible, and you get the treatment you need. It's necessary. Tax credits so individuals can own their own health insurance. Only 8% of this nation own their own health insurance right now. We know why that came to be. FDR, our last president, that was as left-wing as this president is, employer sanctions, price controls, wage controls. As a result, businesses had to offer benefits to attract the new best talent. Now we have this employer-based system across our country, so if you lose your job, or if Gabrielle Giffords is in Congress, everyone loses their job. You lose your health insurance. That's not what we need right now. Americans have enough on their mind with this economy being destroyed than having to worry about their families losing health insurance if they lose their job. Individual ownership of your health insurance through tax credits and tax incentives is vital to give individuals power over themselves and get the government out of the way. And it's the one thing this government does not want, because they very much want to be in your way. They want to be in your life. In fact, Gabrielle Giffords voted to send you to prison if you didn't insure yourself up to the federal government standards. I must have missed that section of the Constitution.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, if you were to choose the best and the worst features of the health care bill that passed the House, what would they be?
Tough one.
The best feature was, I guess, it stopped at 2,000 pages. The worst feature, you know, the really, you know, these talking heads and whatnot, they love to talk about, well, what about this detail? What about that detail? What about this? What does this mean? Is it socialism? Is it collectivism? What is it? Folks, this is our federal government telling us that we need their permission on how and where and when to access health care. Do we need to go beyond that? The Constitution does not provide any authority for the federal government to behave in this way. Nancy Pelosi took a question from a reporter a couple of months ago, and he said, ma'am, where in the United States Constitution, this beautiful document right here, does it give you the authority to regulate health care? She leaned forward and looked at him and said, that's not a serious question. Folks, that is the only question. That's the first question that we ought to be that we ask. If it doesn't meet the guidelines and the power and maintain within the authority granted by the United States Constitution, then Congress shouldn't be doing it. Now, I attended a healthcare presentation brought to us by the Obama administration a couple months ago. And one of the questions was basically this. And President's lackey up there said, well, I read the Constitution differently. I read it as the General Welfare Clause gives us permission to do this because, you know, general welfare. Well, I have it on pretty good authority that that's not what the General Welfare Clause means. In fact, it was James Madison, the author of the Constitution, who said, if the General Welfare Clause means that the Congress can do anything it wants, that negates the entire rest of the Constitution, and we wouldn't have written it in the first place.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Next.
Mr. Paton, what is your opinion of the recent decision of the U.S. Supreme Court regarding corporate campaign finance contributions?
Good one.
You know, I've never supported McCain-Feingold. I've never supported all the different laws that we have in this country to tell people what they can say, how they can say it. In our own state, we have a system that's sort of euphemistically called clean elections, which basically means taxpayer-subsidized elections. It has perverted our system of elections. It has made it impossible to let the market decide and let people express themselves freely. I've opposed that. You'll see that on the ballot this year. It'll say that from now on, you can no longer spend taxpayer money to pay for junk mail and yard signs for politicians. I never took a dime of that money. And I'll tell you why. Because when we have a financial crisis in this state, it is very difficult for me to justify taking money from taxpayers and using it for my own campaign. You know, if you want to get at what the biggest problem is in Washington, what corrupts Washington, it's not the campaign contributions. It's the earmark system. It's the corruption that we see with those earmarks and that pork barrel spending. Look at what has happened. We have two sides. One, William Jefferson on the one side with the thousands of dollars in his freezer, and we have on the other side Duke Cunningham, a Republican, who's in an orange jumpsuit right now, not far from here in southern Arizona in federal prison. Why is that? It wasn't because they received illegal campaign contributions. It was because they received bribes from other people to give them special perks or give them special deals in the budget. That's what's crippling our country right now. There were 9,000 earmarks in the last budget. That is an unbelievable thing. And what I just told you before is those earmarks aren't based on necessity. Things like, we just heard about our own Congresswoman voted for a beachfront property in the Virgin Islands based on loyalty to Nancy Pelosi. Thank you.
Thank you.